Folks, no one can deny we have a climate crisis.
As scary, as horrifying, as bizarre, and just over the top as reality is, words cannot describe this concerted, psychotic attack on humanity.
We're undergoing a soft coup. One Health is a concept that was created to enable the WHO, with these documents, to take over jurisdiction of everything in the world by saying that climate change, animals, plants, water systems, ecosystems are all central to health. Also embedded in this concept is a peculiar notion that humans are no longer of greater value than animals.
The climate crisis is a health crisis, and climate solutions are health solutions. Renewable energy, healthy and sustainable food systems, and healthy and green cities. Ultimately, the COVID-19 pandemic shows that we're one humanity, sharing one planet and one health.
And the next level gaslighting that goes on.
People traveling to these countries really need to think that this could be the future of European summers, that Europe is the fastest warming continent right now.
When I say gaslighting, I mean that figuratively, also very seriously, in the real world.
Anybody who honestly believes climate change is not a serious problem.
Agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions of the world. And we can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center as part of the solution.
Not just the term gaslighting, meaning lying to somebody and telling them that you're pissing on them, but really it's raining.
Sure, there's an old saying, to the victors belong the spoils.
There's another old saying, Senator. Don't piss down my back and tell me it's raining.
They're literally banning our gas stoves and gaslighting us.
How about shower heads, air conditioners, toilet flushing, light bulbs, washers and dryers, dishwashers, refrigerators, gas cars and trucks, coal-fired pizza ovens, and microwaves? That's just for starters. Joe Biden wants to take them away from us, all in the name of climate change.
You have all these environmental problems that are so profound, they're hard to deny. And people are seeing them now, along with extreme superstorms and droughts. That's why I took the most aggressive action ever in all of history in any country to take on the climate crisis by lowering your home energy bills. We've now gotten to the point where it's cheaper to generate electricity from wind and solar than it is from coal and or fossil fuels.
The era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived. Air is unbreathable, the heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable.
And the UN says it's bad, so we got to ban them. And polar bears are all dying, they can't swim. We got to ban them.
She struggles on. Arctic polar bears are facing near extinction by the end of the century if the sea ice they depend on continues to disappear. That's the stark warning from a new study looking at the long-term future of the bears as greenhouse gas emissions contribute to the melting of the bears' frozen hunting grounds.
Polar bear numbers, the biggest ever recorded. It's the farthest swimming, fastest swimming land animal. They routinely swim 200 miles to hunt. In the summer on ice floes, they show you an image of a polar bear hunting up on top of an ice floe and say, look, it's the last piece of ice. He'll soon drown. He can't swim. The Epoch Times is reporting it's official federal filing. Biden administration rule they're filing will ban nearly all portable gas-powered generators. Smaller gas generators would have to cut carbon monoxide emissions by 50%. And large generators would have to cut emissions by 95%. Nearly all models currently available are expected to not be able to comply with the new standard. Is it that funny they created a standard nobody can comply with? And because a microscopic amount of carbon monoxide is put off by a gas stove, it's not the cleanest thing there is, but there's just a microscopic amount, that's banned too.
gentlemen, it is Monday, July 31st, 2023. This is the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com. The fastest 3 hours on the internet starts now. We have some developments when it comes to the investigations into the Biden crime family, and we're getting mixed reviews as far as what was discussed, what was exposed, what was confirmed and denied during top Biden crime family business partner and associate Devin Archer's closed-door testimony today. We're going to recap the events that led up to that, and then we're going to summarize what we know so far. It appears that this time the only members of the House Oversight Committee that have communicated with the press is Dan Goldman, who's about one of the biggest lying Democrats in Congress. I mean, you watch this guy during some of the hearings and you realize real quick this guy is a lying Democrat scumbag. But we'll kind of go through the events that led up to it, show you what the Republicans are saying leading up to this. But to me, and I was kind of sitting on the fence deciding, well, is this a legal tactic that's going to be used to protect the Biden crime family, or is this judge and the Hunter Biden case the real deal and the Biden crime family might be in serious trouble? I'm now convinced that is the case. The Biden crime family is caught red-handed. They are going down. And now the Democrats are going to try to find the way to ride this wave into their ultimate switcheroo, which is giving Joe Biden the hook and then giving the presidential nominee platform to either Michelle Obama or Gavin Newsom. We're expecting some combination of those two. Is there also a plan to have Joe Biden issue pardons of everybody involved in this before he leaves office, to not only protect himself, obviously, but to protect his son and his business partners? So, you delay the cases, Hunter Biden and Devin Archer stay out of jail as long as possible, and then maybe they have to do a little time, but then as soon as they get the clink, Joe Biden has the pardon ready to go. It would seem likely that Joe Biden would pardon his criminal partners, especially if they decide to not remember exactly any business Joe Biden was involved in. Might work out in their favor. Maybe that's why Devin Archer was smirking like the Cheshire Cat today, or maybe he was smirking like the Cheshire Cat because he's about to bring down the President of the United States. Kind of a thing you might smirk about. Yeah, I think I'm going to go into this testimony and bring down the President of the United States. Or is it, I'm protected by the President of the United States, so I'm not going to say a damn thing. We'll talk about all of that. It's amazing, this story out of California where you had a biolab, it's like an underground Chinese biolab in California that had coronavirus, HIV, and other such things, including mice that could transport it. Barely made the news. So get all panicked about COVID, but not when it's found in a little underground lab in California. Oh, and now they want you to think you need to be afraid of leprosy. And they're saying leprosy is outbreaking in Florida. Well, how did that get there? But Rand Paul continues his pursuit of Anthony Fauci. We'll talk about that. And then, Facebook executives admit what they did was wrong, censoring COVID vaccine information. Yeah, it's not safe or effective. We shouldn't have done that. But the new CDC head says, no, we need annual COVID vaccines. So at this point, they are only reaching out. They are only efforting the dumbest of the dumb, the most brainwashed, mind-controlled slaves of us all are the only people stepping up to get a COVID shot at this point. And that's a crying shame that they don't understand how they're under attack. But I suppose you might call it survival of the fittest. But it's deception. It's illegal. It shouldn't be going on. And they're still trying to tell you that there's a COVID wave coming this summer. Yeah, okay. We're all still afraid of COVID. Meanwhile, the lies of climate change, and it's all leading towards the same thing. Global government, you need to be afraid of a virus. It's a threat to the planet, so we need global government. And now you need to be afraid of the temperature, and you need to be afraid of the weather because we need global government. It's the only way we can deal with this. So they're really pressing the gas on that propaganda as well. We've got some other big international news, a lot of international news, actually, we'll be talking about. Some election news, not just 2024, but back from 2020. More investigations and forensic audits are revealing their findings, and it's exactly what we expected. And then all the issues they had in Maricopa County, Arizona, in the midterms, they're saying, well, we really don't know what's going on. I think it was a printer error. And then the printer manufacturers are saying, well, hold on a second. You're not going to place this blame on us. Paper ballots. One person, one vote, one ballot. Shouldn't be that confusing. Even Kamala Harris, the dumbest vice president in the history of this country, even she understands that. Even she understands that. I am noticing, and this is a good thing, many more people are starting to realize what's going on in the housing market. And I'm seeing all kinds of stories and studies and analysis being done on this. So we'll talk about the latest in that trend. Another interesting trend is going on in high school students right now. A massive split, actually, between where young boys are leaning politically and where young girls are leaning politically. We'll talk about that. President Trump had a massive rally over the weekend, by the way. Joe Biden is taking a vacation. When it's all said and done, in fact, at the end of this vacation, here's one for you. At the end of Joe Biden's current vacation, he's on the beach shirtless today in a Pampers adult diaper. At the end of Joe Biden's vacation, he will have spent more than 1 year. That's more than 365 days on vacation while he is president. The RNC research team crunched the numbers. As of today, Joe Biden has spent 39% of his presidency on vacation. It was 360 days. That will be over a year when his most recent beach vacation is complete. But why? You got to wonder, what is the real story with Joe Biden going on vacation? He doesn't work hard. Nobody's arguing he's working hard. I mean, sure, the White House claims that, but there's no evidence. He doesn't do press conferences. He doesn't do regular Oval Office meetings and press conferences. He doesn't go out and give speeches multiple times a day. He's not even campaigning. He's not even running a real campaign for president right now, or to even get the Democrat nominee. So what is the real story? Is it all an act? Oh, Joe Biden's crimes are about to come out in all these hearings in the House Oversight Committee and Judiciary Committee, so let's send Joe on vacation and just pretend like everything's fine and good. Is that what's going on, or is there something else? Is he needing health treatments, and the only way to hide that from the media is to get him out of the White House? We got a ton of news, video clips on this Monday edition of the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com. Stick around. All right, there is more coming down the pipeline as I'm on air in regards to the Devon Archer closed-door testimony today. Now, before I try to scramble and get you the latest, let me just go through what we already have for you and tell you what led into this, okay? So first of all, Devon Archer set to testify. This was known for a while. And last week, you may recall, the DOJ attempted to arrest Devon Archer so that he couldn't testify. Of course, that was the theory. The DOJ has since denied that. And of course, Archer was not arrested and did testify today. But the Oversight Committee was convinced that that was the case. And in fact, they were in such a moment of finally you start to see some sense of urgency. Matt Gaetz, the DOJ is now actively committing the crime of obstructing a congressional investigation. If Devin Archer isn't in the witness chair Monday, we better haul every son of a bitch at the Department of Justice before Congress every day to make them pay for this. I'll come back to Washington tomorrow to do this. They were supposed to be on recess. Archer is in that chair or Merrick Garland is. Matt Gaetz says he gets joined by Representative Mike Johnson from Louisiana. Says, count me in. I'll come back to the Hill. Representative Dan Bishop, I'll join you. Representative Harriet Hagman, I'll join you. Representative Chris Roy, I'll join you. And so they did. And it actually ended up being 5 members of the House Judiciary Committee are now calling for lawmakers to return to Washington for immediate emergency hearings on the DOJ's interference with congressional oversight. Mike Johnson is an elected member of House leadership and one of the brightest attorneys in the House. This is all because Hunter's problems and Joe's problems merge with the testimony of Devin Archer. Time for action right now. A sense of urgency from these House Republicans on the Oversight Committee. What a wonderful thing to see. Mike Johnson, the weaponized Department of Justice, clarifies they won't try to prevent Devin Archer from testifying tomorrow. Witness intimidation and obstruction? Nah, nothing to see here. But what is the real story? Again, here is James Comer, who's leading these investigations with Jim Jordan, talking to Maria Bartiromo yesterday morning about what they suspect was going on with the DOJ and Devin Archer in clip 13.
I want to ask you about your investigation, but first, let me get to this breaking news. I have in my hand a letter from the Department of Justice that was sent to the Southern District of New York on Saturday. By the way, Devin Archer is testifying on Monday. Do you usually see the DOJ send letters like this out on a Saturday?
Never. This is the first time I've ever heard of the Department of Justice doing anything on a Saturday.
So what is this letter? Can you walk us through it? The government is apprising the court of the status of Devin Archer's appeal of his judgment of conviction, and they request that the court set a surrender date for the defendant to report to a facility. Please walk us through what this letter says.
Yeah, the letter from the Department of Justice is trying to nudge the judge to go ahead and sentence Devin Archer for something unrelated to what we're going to be talking to him about tomorrow. It's odd that it was issued on a Saturday, and it's odd that it's right before he's scheduled to come in to have an opportunity to speak in front of the House Oversight Committee and tell the American people the truth about what really went on with Burisma. So, I don't know if this is a coincidence, Maria, or if this is another example of the weaponization of the Department of Justice, but I can tell you this. The lengths to which the Biden legal team has gone to try to intimidate our witnesses, to coordinate with the Department of Justice, and to certainly coordinate with the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee to encourage people not to cooperate with our investigation, to encourage banks not to turn over bank records, to encourage Treasury not to let us have access to those suspicious activity reports. It's very troubling, and I believe that this is another violation of the law. This is obstruction of justice, but nevertheless, we're going to continue to.
So the Republicans have been relatively quiet since this testimony took place and concluded a few hours ago. The only meetings with the House Oversight Committee and the press that I've seen since it concluded are the Democrat that we're going to play here shortly, Dan Goldman, who's one of the most corrupt, lying Democrats in the House, which is saying quite a bit, I would say. And so we'll play for you some of that, but we're not so naive to think that there's not some backhanded, backroom dealings going on here. Certainly that's going on when you consider the crimes that Joe and Hunter Biden are potentially being accused of and the charges they are potentially facing here. So Devin Archer shows up today with a grin. You guys can just B-roll clip 12 here. with a Cheshire cat type grin. I mean, a grin that only a true con man could even potentially have. Now, my guess is the reason why the Bidens brought Devon Archer in is because he's actually smart. Joe Biden is not a smart man. Hunter Biden is not a smart man. Devon Archer probably is a smart man, and that's why he was involved in these business dealings. Now, why is he grinning like the Cheshire cat as he goes into this hearing today? Is that because he knows he's cut a deal with the Bidens and he's going to get pardoned? Did that have anything to do with them trying to arrest him beforehand? Was that an intimidation, saying we're going to arrest you and put you in jail forever if you say anything about the Biden crime family in this testimony? Or had he already made his decision? And he was going to go in there and cooperate and tell the Republicans what they already know, which is Joe Biden was using Hunter Biden to act as a foreign agent, and 10% kickbacks were going to the big guy, a.k.a. Joe. Now, it would appear, again, okay, so there's all your potentials. Did the DOJ engage in witness intimidation? Did they engage in a backroom deal with, hey, don't say anything about the Biden crime family? Whatever you get charged with, you're going to get a pardon from Joe? Did he already decide he's going to sell all the goods? It would appear that there was a little bit of a problem with Devon and Hunter leading up to this because of these text messages we have. Shane O'Ryan reporting for OAN. Hunter Biden's best friend, partner, and jail-bound Devon Archer is set to talk to Congress behind closed doors. He can't be a happy camper. He gets jail time. Hunter Biden does it. Now, this is the text. This is the text from Devon Archer to Hunter in 2019. Why did your dad's administration appointees arrest me and try to put me in jail? Just curious. Some of our partners are asking out there. Oh, some of the partners, like the other mules for the Biden crime family, concerned they might be arrested next for their involvement in the Biden crime family? He goes on, why would they try and ruin my family and destroy my kids and no one from my family side step in and at least try to help me? I don't get it. Or your family side. No one from the Bidens step in and at least try to help me. I don't get it, and I'm depressed. Bunch of these Asians getting in my head, asking me the same, so just curious what I should answer. Remember, he's obviously talking about the Biden Chinese business partners when he's talking about the Asians. I'm up against the break. I'll continue this breakdown on the other side. Okay, now we have our first statements from the Republicans in the Oversight Committee. I have that for you right here. We'll get into that momentarily. But again, you have Devon Archer, who is already set facing charges, messaging Hunter saying, what is the deal here? Why are you going after me for these crimes? So did Devon Archer go into his testimony today with a chip on his shoulder against the Biden crime family? Or did Devon Archer go into the testimony today with a promise of a pardon from the Biden crime family? And I think the answer to that will ultimately determine how useful his testimony actually will be. But the truth of the matter is, Devon Archer's testimony is just gravy on top here because the Republicans already have all the evidence. They don't need Archer's testimony. My guess is, and if Archer is smart, he either took a backroom deal with the Bidens for a pardon, not to divulge any details on the Biden crime family, or he understood his value as a potential witness. He took that into the room, and he'll probably want to cut a deal with the Republicans, and they'll have to work with the prosecutors in Archer's case, which is a whole other issue. But he probably would say, hey, I'll tell you all about the Biden crime family, but you got to help me out with these other charges I'm facing. So depending on whether he's got a pardon promise from the Biden or whether he's got a chip on his shoulder against the Bidens will ultimately determine how useful he is as a witness. But it's all gravy. The Republicans already have the bank records. They got more bank records that they've subpoenaed that are coming in. They already have multiple members of the Biden family receiving millions of dollars. They have the whole flow chart with the wire transfers and the shell companies. So Archer's testimony would just be icing on the cake. But nonetheless, it would be important for them. Now, all we heard from originally was Dan Goldman, one of the biggest lying Democrats in the House. And here's what he said to the media afterwards. First, he admits that, yes. So first, Joe Biden said, no, I was never talking to Hunter Biden about this. Well, Dan Goldman had to admit otherwise in clip 9.
And I want to be very clear about one thing. He did describe that there were approximately 20 occasions over the course of their nearly decade-long business relationship where, when one of them called the other, that Hunter Biden would ask his father to say hello to whomever he was at dinner. He said there were some times when it was friends and sometimes when it was potential business partners or business partners. But the witness was unequivocal and stated very clearly that they never discussed any business on that phone conversations. There were niceties and there was a hello and we talked about the weather or whatever it was, but it was never any business.
Oh, yeah, that's right, guys. I'm going to call my dad real quick and just say hello. You guys think I should call my dad? I mean, I'm in the middle of a show. I'm in the middle of work. I just call hey, Pops, I want you to say hello to everyone at work here so they know you're here. Yeah, all right. How's the weather? Yeah, good here too, right? So everybody knows this is my dad. And I'm talking about big political business dealings here and money coming to you and money coming to me. Right, Dad? That's you, right, Dad? Oh, yeah, see, that's my dad. Okay, all right, Dad. Yep, business call over. Thank you. Yeah, totally innocent, guys. No, Hunter Biden called his dad on the phone during the business meetings as a flex. And it was all part of the plan. Joe Biden was in on it, too. Now, again, is Archer saying this with a wink and a nod to the Republicans? Or is Archer saying this really trying to protect the Biden crime family, hoping to get a pardon? There's only so much he can lie about. He is under oath, after all. So he admits that the phone calls were happening, even though Joe Biden denied it. But, it was just a formal hello. You know, Hunter Biden in the middle of business dealings worth millions of dollars on the table. You call your dad for a hello. You're not trying to prove anything. You're just calling to say hello in the middle of a business meeting. But so, no, it didn't happen it did happen. He was just saying hello. And this is going to be an amazing one to watch the left spin this, and they already are, by the way. But so here it is again in clip 10.
Doesn't that contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to any of Hunter Biden's business associates? Clearly he talked, whether it's about the weather or whatever, but he said specifically that he's never talked to them. Doesn't this contradict them?
I don't know what his comment is, and if we're going to, well, I don't think that's what he said. He never said that he has never spoken to anyone.
It's exactly what he said.
That he had nothing to do with Hunter Biden's business dealings. If he says hello to someone that he sees his son with, is he supposed to say, hi, son? Oh, no, I'm not going to say hello to the other people at the table or the other people on the phone. It's kind of a preposterous premise to think that a father should not say hello to people that the son is at dinner with, and that is literally all the evidence is.
Just ridiculous.
It's like a party trick.
Who makes calls like that during dinner anyway? It's rude.
He was with.
So they're admitting the whole thing. It's pretty obvious what's going on here. And we all know why Hunter Biden dialed up his dad and put him on speakerphone. It was a flex. It was a power move. It was a confirmation that, hey, yeah, my dad knows what's going on. Don't worry. The deal we're making here is good. And so, again, here is Dan Goldman admitting the exact thing he's trying to deny in clip 11.
Doesn't that contradict the president's statement saying that he never talked to
I'm sorry. That's a repeat clip. So that's all right, guys. Pull it down. That's right. So, but there you go. Now, not all Democrats are... we got the right clip now. Go ahead and roll that one.
Confirm, you're saying that the speakerphone conversations, they don't seem concerning to you because there is no specifics about business, and it just seemed like
it was clear that it was as part of the daily conversations that Hunter Biden had with his father. I
want to pause this right here real quick. So this shows you that the Bidens know they're in trouble because their lawyers have been coaching Joe on what to say. So in other words, they knew this day would come. And you notice, what does Joe Biden always say? And he said this again during an interview, and the media is saying, look, Joe Biden recognizes his 7th grandchild for the first time. That's the child that Hunter Biden had with London Roberts that he tried to deny and not make child payments with, but then they concluded their court case earlier this month. But you know what? I mean, let's just, in fairness, Joe Biden might have dozens of grandkids. How many of his grandkids did Hunter Biden abort? I mean, you want total proof of the death cult. You know, you better hope you don't get conceived in a Democrat woman's body. I mean, because you might not make it out of that womb. But nonetheless, they say, look, Joe Biden finally recognizes his 7th grandchild. And what does he say every time he's talking? I call all my children and grandchildren every day. Folks, that's legal coaching right there. They told Joe Biden to say that as much as possible so that they could make this argument and say, no, Joe Biden, he always calls his kids. So, oh yeah, when Hunter and Joe are talking during business meetings, that's just what Joe does all the time. Total legal coaching right there. Continue the clip.
Sounds like most of the time, now President Biden didn't even know who the people he was at dinner. He was just asked to say hello.
Right.
And he would, talk about the way he described it several times. They asked over and over and over. He described what the weather was, how what's going on your end. The witness was very, very consistent that none of those conversations ever had to do with any business dealings or transactions. They were purely what he called casual conversations.
Yes. And I'm sure that they would give Donald Trump the same benefit of the doubt if it was Don Jr. having phone calls and meetings with international business partners. I'm sure they would give him the same benefit of the doubt. But don't worry, we're not out of the spin zone yet, because even CNN knows Joe Biden and the Biden crime family, they're cooked, folks. Whatever the testimony from Archer ends up being, they know they're cooked. So the spin cycle is on when it comes to Devon Archer's testimony. But again, folks, Archer's testimony is just going to end up being gravy on top, the icing on the cake. The Republicans in the House Oversight Committee already have all the goods and more goods coming in. So again, the question is, did Devon Archer go in there with a chip on his shoulder against the Bidens, or did he go in there with a deal on the table by the president for a pardon if he doesn't say anything damning of the Biden crime family? But the spin zone is on. And so CNN and the rest of the Democrat Party propagandists have to find a way to spin this all. Because, yeah, he was on the phone. Yeah, he was on the phone with Hunter. He did talk to Hunter's business associates. They lied about that, and so they can try to pretend it's innocent like they are here in clip 14.
So Goldman sort of explaining that Archer qualified the topics of discussion on these phone calls as niceties that Biden sometimes didn't even know who was on the other line with his son Hunter. And sources in the room telling CNN now that Archer did not point the finger directly at any sort of a connection between Joe Biden and his son's foreign business dealings, and rather, said that Hunter Biden was selling the illusion of said access. Boris.
Really a stunning development, Zach, when you consider that Republicans were selling this as a breakthrough that would link Hunter's business dealings with his father. Instead, business was apparently never discussed, according to Devon Archer. Zach Cohen, thanks so much for the reporting. Brianna?
It was never discussed. Now, that is literally the story that CNN is running with. You plug it in right now. In fact, I would guess if you plug illusion into Google right now, the CNN story and all the other syndicates pick it up. The illusion that Hunter Biden was selling access to Joe Biden. It's the illusion. So first, there were no phone calls. He never discussed it. Now it's, oh, yeah, every time Hunter had a business meeting, he called Joe to check in on the weather. It was the illusion. Oh, yes. So Hunter is like, in these business meetings, hey, you do this for me. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. My dad knows about this deal. Here's how we can help you out. If you don't believe me, let me just call my dad right now. Hey, Dad. Oh, hey, son. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Well, Dad, I'm in the room with my friends here that I'm about to make $1 million business deals with. Why don't you just say hello, Dad? Oh, yes, hello. Oh, that sounds great, son. Sure, yeah. Totally innocent, guys. Totally innocent. Not all the Democrats believe so. Democrat Representative James Himes on Hunter Biden says he broke the law and he should be held accountable. Democrat from Connecticut. I bet he's not a Democrat in a couple years. He'll probably be a Republican. CNN contributor shocks panel. It's not the Republican Party's fault. Hunter Biden is a scumbag. By the way, the loose ends that are Hunter Biden into the Biden crime family only get worse now. And it just shows how dumb they are. House panel demands documents from Hunter Biden art buyer Elizabeth Naftali. And this isn't going to be the only one. This is just going to be the beginning. The House Oversight Committee is demanding documents from a high-powered Democratic donor who purchased artwork by Hunter Biden. Elizabeth Hirsch Naftali, a Los Angeles-based real estate investor and philanthropist, they're all philanthropists, was named as one of the buyers by Business Insider this week. Naftali raised further eyebrows after news emerged she visited the White House at least a dozen times. Oh, like other Biden business partners that don't exist. She was visiting the White House to check in on Joe and his weather report. She wanted a direct weather report. Of course, if it is not so innocent. And so this is just the beginning of the next investigation into the Biden crime family that we're going to get details on. Hunter Biden's art sales, who he was selling them to, and then the benefits they got after buying the art. I mean, it's so in broad daylight, it's absurd at this point. But I guess when you've gotten away with so much for so long and your dad is the president, you think you're untouchable. And for the most part, there's been no serious people in Congress that would ever try to push back against this or stop all the corruption from happening in D.C., but it appears now that has changed. Here is the first statements I've seen from the Republican side of the aisle since the testimony earlier today. This is from the House Oversight Committee. Devin Archer testimony takeaways. We completed a transcribed interview with the Biden associate, Devin Archer. Archer's testimony confirms Joe Biden lied to the American people when he said he had no knowledge about his son's business dealings and was not involved. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, he joined Hunter Biden's dinners with his foreign business associates in person or by speakerphone over 20 times. Devin Archer testified that the value of adding Hunter Biden to Burisma's board was, quote, the brand, and confirmed that then Vice President Joe Biden was the brand and that the 20 phone calls were to sell the brand. In fact, Devin Archer admitted that Burisma would have gone out of the business if the brand had not been attached to it, not to mention the intimidation of Joe Biden to get the prosecutor fired, which will go on here. Because of the Biden's involvement, people would have been intimidated to mess with Burisma legally. In December 2015, when Joe Biden was vice president, Mykola Zlochevsky, the owner of Burisma, and Vadim Pocharsky, an executive of Burisma, placed constant pressure on Hunter Biden to get help from D.C. regarding the Ukrainian prosecutor Viktor Shokin. Shokin was investigating Burisma for corruption. They never got down to the bottom of it because Joe Biden intimidated and bribed Ukraine with our tax dollars to fire the prosecutor. Hunter Biden, along with Zlochevsky and Pocharsky, called D.C. to discuss the matter. Biden, Zlochevsky, and Pocharsky stepped away to make the call. This raises concerns that Hunter Biden was in violation of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. There's an ongoing investigation into Hunter Biden violating the FARA, the Foreign Agents Registration Act, and we have a pretty good idea how that's going to go. And that's why Hunter Biden rejected the plea deal with his lawyers, either playing dumb or really being that dumb. They thought the plea deal would drop the investigation into his violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. When they learned it wouldn't, they pulled out of the plea deal. and they had to either reconvene or they knew it the whole time and were playing dumb. Joe Biden was dialed into a dinner in Paris with a French energy company and in China with Jonathan Lee, the CEO of BHR. Then Vice President Biden also had coffee with Lee in Beijing and even wrote a letter of recommendation for college for Lee's daughter. It's all a coincidence. Archer confirmed Joe Biden was referred to as my guy by Hunter Biden, the big guy. In 2014, then Vice President Biden attended a business dinner with Hunter and his associates at Cafe Milano in D.C. Very nice. Elena Barturina, a Russian oligarch who is the widow of the former mayor of Moscow, was an attendee. Notably, the Biden admin's public sanctions do not contain Barturina. Now, Trump brought that up in the debates in 2020. And then what do you know? Joe Biden didn't show up for another debate. And it is true, of all the sanctions, Barturina didn't get sanctioned, and now we know why. Now, there are going to be more developments on this, I'm guessing, before the end of the transmission. I'll be continuing to monitor that. But there you go. That's how we got here. That's where we're at. And so now the question becomes, when does Devon Archer do a public testimony, and when are they going to launch the third indictment of Donald Trump and really shake things up? So we'll continue to monitor that. Any other updates I'll bring to you. I do want to get into the other news when we come back from this break. Now, it is the last day of July. It is the last day of July here on this Monday, July 31st, and so the Patriot Pride Month sales are set to expire soon. What's left in stock still at a deep discount at InfoWarsStore.com. Patriot Pride Month this July, the sales continue. Huge discounts on just about everything at the website. And some of the biggest savings can be had right now on emergency food supplies, air filtration, and water filtration. 10% off all air filters, all water filters, and all emergency food supplies right now at InfoWarsStore.com. We already have the highest quality emergency foods, plus the best quality storage containers as well. So when you get these shipped to you, you don't need to worry about storing them or putting them into a safe storage container. They already come ready to be stored. Emergency food supplies from InfoWarsStore.com. And considering how desperate the Biden crime family is right now, with Joe Biden's finger on the nuclear trigger in China and Russia, with that situation, probably a good time to make sure you have insurance you can eat by getting emergency food supplies at InfoWarsStore.com. All right, I'm going to get back to the Biden crime family and what Joe Biden is currently up to. But let's take a brief moment and cover the 2024 presidential election process, where Vivek Ramaswamy continues to surge in the poll numbers and where Ron DeSantis continues to tank. And it's almost past the point of no return for DeSantis at this point, I'm afraid. And by the way, Hirsch Singh, who I talked about last week, who launched his campaign to win the primary on the Republican side, and then all the Republican voters and conservatives attacking him just completely illegitimately and ignorantly and immaturely. I didn't get it at all. When he shares our message and when he moves the ball forward for us and when he steers the conversation in the right direction, we should be supportive of that. Well, he's now being banned from advertising his presidential campaign on Twitter. So will all the Republicans and conservatives that said, "Why are you running? Leave us alone. We don't want you." Will they realize now he's being censored too and maybe decide to amplify the message? It's no threat to President Trump. Relax. But here is Vivek Ramaswamy continuing to go after the administrative state. Here he is addressing the FDA in clip 23.
I've talked about my plans to shut down the administrative state, but we're just getting warmed up. And one agency I've been waiting for a long time to expose and to ultimately gut is much of the FDA itself. This is an organization that now exercises authority far beyond what the law envisioned when the FDA was ever created in the first place. Just one example of the hypocrisy. This is an agency that is fundamentally hostile to patients' right to try medicines, including life-saving medicines. They will say, no, unless it's gone through the billions of dollars and 10 plus years of testing. No, they have a deep objection to patients trying potential life-saving medicines. Now, they'll say that, there are right to try laws. Everybody in the pharma industry knows the dirty little secret that the FDA hates it and will penalize you if you actually avail yourself of those right to try laws and make investigational medicines available to patients who want to try them with full information. That's the same agency and same federal government that instead says if it's a COVID vaccine and pushed through under political circumstances in less than a year, not only do you have the choice to take it, you have no choice but not to take it. So there's no choice for investigational medicines that could save your life but haven't been through the FDA's process, which pumps up the price of those prescription drugs. And there's no choice but not to take it if there's a special favored vaccine that makes it through in less than a year, sailing right through the normal process. This is hypocrisy. We cannot believe both of these things at once. And in a post-West Virginia versus EPA world, where the Supreme Court has correctly held that it is unconstitutional for an agency to rule by fiat, to issue regulations that go far beyond what the statutory basis of that regulation gave the agency power to promulgate in the first place, we're going to rescind most of those federal regulations and actually restore the integrity of a constitutional republic. And when it comes to agencies like the FDA, boy, do I know their corruption. Everybody in the farm industry, it's a quiet little adage. They say, oh no, FDA never forgets. You can't criticize them or they'll penalize you for the drugs that you're applying to advance. Well, I'm a free man now. They can't shut me up now. I'm going to be the next U.S. president. And believe me, we're delivering accountability to every one of those agencies. And yes, that includes the FDA. And believe me, I will not forget.
Well, I don't really agree with him being the next U.S. president, but with everything else, I do agree. And it's a message we can get behind, and it's one I hope that Donald Trump would even get behind himself. I suppose you could have a situation where, let's say Vivek does become the number two. Clearly, people still want to cling to DeSantis as the number two. He's not. It's Vivek. And you can say, all right, well, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to win presidency, and then I'm going to pardon Donald Trump, and then I'm going to make him my vice president, and then I'm going to resign. That's what people are floating out there. I don't think any of that's really going to happen. But Vivek against the administrative state, we like that. If I told you we have a picture of Joe Biden wearing an adult diaper at the beach, would you believe me? I don't know. Is it real? Is it fake? No, it's Joe Biden on vacation. And in fact, when this vacation is set to expire at the end of the week, Joe Biden will have spent more than 365 days. That's an entire calendar year. Joe Biden will have spent more than 365 days on vacation while president of the United States. My guess is that since January 2021, you in the listening audience have not had 365 days, an entire calendar year of vacation. Just going to make that bold guess. In fact, my guess is that if you took the entire War Room crew, myself and the whole crew, and you combined how many vacation days we have taken since Joe Biden became president, I don't think it would be anywhere near 365. So Joe Biden, a lot of off time, a lot of vacation time for old Joe. In fact, it's 40% of his presidency. Can you believe that? 40% of his presidency spent on vacation. He's the hardest working president. He's so busy, is what they tell you. Nobody believes that, though. So why did they decide to do this now? Is this he has nothing to worry about? See, he's going on vacation as the Biden crime family is being exposed. Is there something else going on? Does he need some health treatments that they want to have that are not at the White House so people don't go sniffing around? Or does he really just like to take vacation all the time and just spend most of his time as president on vacation because the whole thing is a joke? Oh, Don't show me Joe Biden's Twitter account. We all know he's not the one putting these tweets out. No. He's at the beach. You'd like to be at the beach, but odds are you're probably working right now. You're probably a working stiff. You're not a traitorous president that spends 40% of his time on vacation. No, you're a hardworking American. This guy can't stop lying. For whatever reason, Joe Biden's ex-husband has decided to spill a lot of the beans into who Joe and Jill really are, and it's really ugly, folks. Joe Biden's ex-husband, Joe stole my prep school football story as his own minutes after I told it. So imagine you're sitting there and you talk about a story from your football playing days in school, and then Joe Biden turns around and tells somebody else that story right after you told it to him. That's Joe Biden. Of course, multiple times he's been caught plagiarizing speeches. I'm telling you, I really think that who Joe Biden really is something so sick and twisted that we really don't know it all. I don't think we really know it all. And we know about the tendencies with the children and the sniffing and the groping and the grabbing. And we know about the incestuous relationship potentially with his daughter when she was younger. And then, of course, we know about Hunter Biden. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and what we've seen on his laptop, him sleeping with his brother's wife. This is a sick family, folks. This is a really sick, twisted family, and there's almost like no humanity at all. You know, how else do you explain all this? You sleep with your brother's wife. You shower inappropriately with your daughter. You listen to someone tell a story and then you walk to the other side of the room and tell it as if it's your own. That's demonic. That is not human. That is somebody who's just totally sold out to evil and doesn't have any moral compass whatsoever. And that's Joe Biden. Then there's Donald Trump. Now, how are Joe Biden's presidential rallies going, by the way? About as good as mine. Trump's on the other hand, just listen to the energy in the crowd. Trump in Erie, Pennsylvania. Just listen to this in clip 7. Trump takes the stage. The roar of the crowd.
Well, thank you very much, Erie. We love Erie. We've been winning Erie.
Oh, I'm sure that Biden won Pennsylvania, though. I'd love to see Biden fill an arena. I'd love to see Biden fill a 12,000-seat arena.
Until we came along.
Or whatever, that arena there. I believe that's the HEB arena in Erie. He actually had a rally there leading up to the 2020 election that we attended. That was a great time. Same thing, huge crowd, huge crowd. Where's Joe Biden's rallies, though? Where's Joe Biden's rallies? By the way, guys, just B-roll clip 6. When they opened the doors to the arena, this was the scene outside. Before the rally even started, you already had thousands of people lined up to get into the arena before it even started. So before the rally even starts, Donald Trump has more people at his rallies than Joe Biden has had combined at all of his. So I guess that's the Erie Insurance Arena there. I might have been thinking of a different arena he went to in Pennsylvania. Same story, though, but I'm sure Biden won Pennsylvania, though. I'm sure Biden could go have an event like that in Pennsylvania, right? Right, guys? Right? Everybody knows that, huh? Joe Biden's huge rallies? We all know about Joe Biden's huge rallies. And Donald Trump took a couple jabs at Biden during his speech. Let's go with clip 4 and then clip 5 back to back, guys. Go ahead.
Not at the top of this game, never was at the top of a game, never was.
We have a guy who's a dumb son of a bitch. And to allow this to happen to our country, Congress should immediately vote to block Joe Biden's recent call-up of reserve forces. We're sending now troops over to Europe to fight. We're sending troops to fuel this escalating conflict. Not a single American life should be put at risk because crooked Joe Biden has been illegally paid off. He's been paid off. This is a corrupt president. And you know what? I would have never said that. I have too much respect for the office of the presidency, and I never said that. I can't say great things about him because he's been a horrible president, but I would never say. But you know what? Now we have to take the gloves off because they took the gloves off, so we take the gloves off.
Now, guys, give me clip 8 here as we go to the break. It's just a compilation of Joe Biden doing the whole confused thing from Mays. And I think it's an act, actually. I think it's an overcompensating act, like he pretends he's so stupid and incompetent he doesn't even know where to walk off the stage. But maybe he really is that gone. Maybe he really is that brain dead. Maybe the dementia has kicked in to such an extreme degree. But it's the same thing. Why does Joe Biden try to skip around the stage or do that little high step that he does when he's getting on Marine One or off Air Force One? He's overcompensating because he knows he looks awkward, like stiff knees, stiff arms, stiff elbows, stiff joints when he walks. Looks like Frankenstein. So he does this whole weird high knee thing when he tries to get on Marine Force One or get off of Air Force One. And it's overcompensating. But what is this confused thing he does every time he finishes a speech? Is it him pretending to be a dumbass? Him pretending to be an oaf? Oh, I couldn't possibly be a criminal mastermind. I don't even know how to walk off a stage. I don't even know where I am half the time. I'm not a criminal mastermind. Look, I finish a speech and I'm confused as to where I even am. I don't even know what's going on half the time. What an incredible fraud. What incredible criminal fraud we are witnessing out of this White House. All right, let's look at some other news here that is not getting a lot of attention. It's pretty astounding, really, when you think about it. They had you, or they wanted to have you panicked over COVID-19. Everybody be scared. COVID-19 this, and then all the other strains and all the other things they try to put you into a state of fear with. The latest is going to be they're going to tell you that leprosy is coming back. But then you find a underground Chinese biolab in California that has COVID, and nobody even wants to talk about it. Barely made the news this weekend. I mean, and I'm telling you, I just do, basically my house is a freaking war room. I just have the monitors up 24/7 with the news going so I don't miss anything. I don't even think I saw this anywhere all weekend. All weekend. Secret, unlicensed Chinese biolab. We have the images here on the screen, by the way. Raided in California, CDC found infectious viral agents such as malaria, rubella, HIV, chlamydia, E. coli, streptococcus, pneumonia, hepatitis, and herpes. What were the Chinese doing? The lab also had 900 genetically engineered mice living in inhumane conditions, with another 175 found dead. Most of the boxes and material found had a dressing coming from China, and the company that owned the warehouse had its main offices in China. Nothing in the media about this. On television over the weekend. You'd think they'd, but see, they don't want you in fear of that. Oh, Chinese biolab in California making diseases and putting them into mice that they could release into the city. We don't want you to be afraid of that. But if we can kind of have an ambiguous, unknown source of COVID-19, then everybody go into panic and fear and shut it all down. But when it's actually right there in your backyard, shh. CDC, this is NBC News actually covering it. Not on their weekend cable news programs, but CDC detects coronavirus, HIV, hepatitis, and herpes at unlicensed Chinese California lab. Oh, they don't put Chinese in there, though. They don't want you to know about that. So, let's put everybody in fear of COVID-19. But see, that just shows you how the whole thing was orchestrated. It was an entire plan from the beginning So that's all part of the plan. Hey, when we are running the plan, when we are running the agenda, then we control the narrative and we tell you to be afraid of COVID-19 because we're in command. But when you find a underground Chinese-run biolab in your backyard in California, shh, don't worry about that. But see, it's all about them being in control. They're in control of the COVID-19 release. They're in control of the COVID-19 narrative. They're in control of the government response. They're in control of the vaccine. So total panic, they're in control. But then this is actually an organic thing that maybe they didn't know about, with mice potentially running around spreading disease. Might be something you actually should care about and be concerned of, so you don't hear about that. Rand Paul continues in his pursuit of criminal charges against Anthony Fauci. Rand Paul files criminal referral against absolute liar Anthony Fauci. Senator Rand Paul has filed a criminal referral to the Department of Justice, and I'm sure they'll be hearing him out too, asserting that Anthony Fauci lied while under oath concerning gain-of-function research in Wuhan being funded by Fauci's NIH. And remember, Rand Paul gave Fauci a chance to correct his statement because he already had the receipts. Remember, it happened twice during these hearings. First, Rand Paul asked him about it. Then he said, well, we're going to revisit this. Then he came with the receipts and he said, here's the lab that you funded. Here's your signature. Here's the gain of function proof. Do you want to correct your congressional testimony so that you don't get charges of perjury? And he said, nope. And so now Rand Paul says, okay, well, we'll go ahead and try to refer you for criminal charges. Now, he'll be protected by the DOJ, obviously. But Rand Paul has the receipts. Rand Paul forwarded copies of 2020 email exchanges that show Anthony Fauci confirming that he knew scientists in Wuhan University are known to have been working on gain-of-function experiments. He lied under oath. So here's what I'm seeing with the Devin Archer, Hunter Biden crime family investigations by the House GOP Oversight Committee, Judiciary Committee. There's finally a sense of urgency, folks. And I think that's because we finally have serious men and women in there. And it's not just, hey, play within the ropes. As long as everybody in D.C. is not disrupted and not exposed, then everything's fine, everything's good here. So there might be some huffing and puffing, but nothing ever got done. Nobody ever got charged. The corruption gets worse and worse and worse. And as long as the congressmen and women are getting paid, they don't care. They'll show up, punch the clock, go home, get their nice little paycheck. Not so little, I guess. It's big compared to the average. But nonetheless, I think that's changed. I'm seeing a serious sense of urgency from Republicans in the House. Now, not in the Senate, because Mitch McConnell is as corrupt as they come. So Rand Paul basically has to swim upstream trying to get any momentum against criminals like Anthony Fauci. But obviously, Mitch McConnell's time in Congress is probably just about up, long overdue. But the House Republicans, I mean, Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, these guys are serious. And I think that they've learned, because it's likely Anthony Fauci is going to get away with all of his crimes. And that's because in the years 2020 and 2021, the Republicans did nothing to bring this guy to justice and get to the bottom of what he was involved with in that Wuhan lab, because there was no sense of urgency. But I feel that that's finally changed, at least in the House GOP. And now Facebook is admitting, yes, we did censor vaccine information for the deep state. New files show Biden administration forced Facebook to censor true information on vaccine side effects. Chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, released a second batch of files Friday showing that the Biden administration was forcing Facebook to censor content relating to COVID vaccines, including what employees there described as true information. And you had a Facebook executive with a leaked email we have now where he says, this was wrong. The Biden administration made us censor it. We shouldn't have done it. It was wrong. And now we know the side effects and the heart problems and everybody having the blood clotting and the myocarditis and the neurological issues as well. But the new CDC director, Dr. Mandy Cohen, she says we need annual COVID vaccines. So these things will kill you deader than a hammer if you've had 5 of them probably. She says we need at least 5 a year. Oh, so the 22-year-old star soccer player Lars Dendoncker, he had to retire because of his heart condition. Yep. Bronny James will be lucky if he can ever play high-level basketball again. But CNN is telling you to be afraid of COVID-19. I'm not even kidding you. CNN headline from this weekend, your summer cold could be COVID-19 as the nation goes into a late summer wave. They just can't give it up. They need you in fear forever. So much corruption in D.C., isn't there? So much corruption in D.C. We all know it. Sam Bankman-Fried is intimidating witnesses and must be jailed, prosecutors say. Sam Bankman-Fried is hardly intimidating anything except maybe a comb. No, somebody else is running that guy. He's the front guy. I'm not so sure he doesn't even have a learning disability, and that might even be why he was used as a front guy. But nonetheless, he gets to walk from all the political campaign finance violations, all the tens of millions, hundreds of millions that got laundered through crypto and into the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, mostly the Democrat Party. But yes, McConnell, McCarthy were benefactors as well. Not to mention the millions that went into Ukraine and got laundered and disappeared. No charges for Sam Bankman-Fried, and now he's apparently intimidating witnesses? Former Trump attorney rips Jack Smith and DOJ on latest suspect charges. This was on CNN. They all had security footage, so they knew no footage was missing. Now, we've talked about this in the past, how one of the claims was, that Trump was obstructing justice. You may recall this, that Trump was obstructing justice because they didn't have some security footage that the DOJ was trying to get their hands on. And then apparently there was some back and forth where they said, well, this security footage got corrupted. There was this water leak, and then we had to move these documents, and then there was a whole back and forth. Well, now Trump's team is saying, no, there was never any security footage missing. They just made it up. So who knows at this point? Except that, well, we know where the real corruption is in D.C., and it's not Donald Trump. No, it's not, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Yeah, so this is going back and forth. Trump ordered security footage deleted. DOJ alleged a new charges. This thing has gone back and forth. So first it was obstruction of justice. They deleted the security footage. Then it was, well, no, it wasn't even Trump. It was some leak or something. And then the footage got corrupted, and Trump didn't even have anything to do with it. It was just something that happened. And then it was, well, no, you got all the security footage. What are you talking about? So it's all ridiculous. It's all the Cold War DC that we witnessed going on. Every day now, every day, just waiting for that next indictment of Donald Trump to drop. It might drop in the next hour. It could drop in the next 2 hours. That's the pace of things right now in Cold War DC. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Patriot Pride Month at InfoWarsStore.com, and thanks to your support at InfoWarsStore.com, we're still here on air every day, 10 hours a day. And Patriot Pride Month is the July sales specials, so they are set to expire here when we flip the calendar to August. Hard to believe already, but that is the case. So take advantage of the Patriot Pride Month sales before they expire at InfoWarsStore.com. Big discounts on top-selling, top-rated supplements like Brain Force Plus, Brain Force Ultra, both 50% off. Turbo Force Plus, 10 hours of clean energy, 25% off. The toothpastes from Dr. Jones Naturals. In fact, all Dr. Jones Naturals products are 25% off. All of these sales at InfoWarsStore.com for the month of July set to expire, plus double Patriot points with every order that can be applied towards future purchases. You go make a big purchase at InfoWarsStore.com right now. Double Patriot points in your account that can be applied immediately to your next purchase. So your continued support at InfoWarsStore.com is paramount, but you also get a product that is great for you. I'm a product of the product at InfoWarsStore.com. So we hope you'll take advantage of the Patriot Pride Month sales happening right now until we flip the calendar. All right. We talked about the vaccines a little bit. This is coming out of Cedars-Sinai, this latest report. We'll air some of this report as we head to the next break. But, folks, it's just, again, if the sense of urgency would have been there when it was right here in 2020 and 2021, we wouldn't be dealing with all these deaths. But, sadly, hundreds of thousands had to die because of the vaccine and COVID propaganda. And now we're starting to realize how deadly the propaganda really was. Here's a report in clip 18.
For emergency crews like this one, responding to heart problems is a matter of life and death.
We've just been called out to a report of a cardiac arrest at a convalescent hospital.
Since the COVID-19 pandemic began, LA County paramedics say they've been busier than ever with calls like this one, transporting a cardiac arrest patient.
So, of course,
County
the twist here on the NBC Weekend News is that COVID is causing the heart problems. It's obviously the COVID vaccine, but no, they're going to try to twist it and say it's COVID.
A national study from Cedars-Sinai Hospital shows that deaths related to heart attacks increased across every age group since the spring of 2020. But the group that saw the biggest increase isn't who you might think.
Young people are obviously not really supposed to die of heart attack.
But the relative increase in heart attack-associated deaths among 25 to 44-year-olds was a staggering 30%, more than the increase in middle and older age groups, which ranged between 15 and 20%. Paramedic Romeo Robles noticed an uptick with each COVID surge in the South LA community he serves.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Now, think about it like this, though. Even if you believe, you know what, guys, that's fine. We can go ahead and just cut that. Even if you want to claim or believe that these heart problems, cardiac events, and related deaths are from COVID-19, even if you believe that, still, it's a virus that came out of a lab funded by Anthony Fauci. So that's not an out here. That's not an escape of guilt for anybody here. COVID-19 made in a lab caused all these people to die, whether from the disease, the hospital treatment, the heart attack, doesn't matter. Made in a lab, funded by Anthony Fauci, he should be held responsible. But they have this thing now where, we just blame it all on COVID-19, not the vaccine. Well, COVID-19 was made in a lab just like the vaccine. So no, that's not the out that you think it is. And I'm telling you, look, the younger athletes is obviously a big story. The soccer players, the basketball players. This Bronny James story from last week, folks, is a big one. Now, LeBron James hasn't said anything since his son was released from the hospital last week. And you wonder if there's not some intimidation going on there behind the scenes. But even if you want to make the argument, which is obviously probably mostly not true, that the virus is causing the heart attacks. But even if you want to make that argument, okay, you're recognizing that myocarditis, you're recognizing that the heart problems, the cardiac arrest has all skyrocketed. You're recognizing that it's specifically going on in youth and athletes where it never was before. So there's a factor there. There's an unnatural, inorganic factor there, whether you believe it is COVID-19 or the vaccines. Somebody should be held responsible. But they're trying to obfuscate, and they're saying, oh, no. It's the virus that did that. And then you're just supposed to believe, oh, it's the virus. Oh, the virus is the bad guy again. And then forget about the fact that now we all know it did come out of the lab in Wuhan and that Anthony Fauci was funding it and pursuing the gain-of-function research via that lab. But they just all admit it now. They just all admit it now, and the numbers are right in your face. But you're just not supposed to really get down to the bottom of it, are you? You're not supposed to question that vaccine that was forced into your arm. You're not supposed to question that vaccine that after it was rolled out, all of a sudden all the heart problems and the young athletes started dropping over. You're not supposed to think or talk about that. Oh, so when cardiac arrests skyrocket in the youth, We don't do round-the-clock emergency red alerts about that. Why not? Because that's not part of the plan. That's not part of the agenda to put you in fear and force you into a government system that runs your life. But if you found out they killed you with the vaccine, you might doubt it. All right, let's look at some of the other news we have on the desk today. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to audible myself. Actually. We don't play too much of AOC here on this show for obvious reasons. I don't want to lower your IQ or destroy your brain cells. Plus, she seems to be controlled within the Democrat Party, the confines of the Democrat Party at least. But I actually think there's a genuine nature to what AOC did over the weekend, talking about the military-industrial complex. Now, the overwhelming sense of irony as you listen to this almost makes it impossible to hear. But just try to sit aside, if you can, the overwhelming sense of irony to everything she says here. But if you listen, I think she's actually coming from a place of truth in her heart. And maybe everything else that she does in D.C. is all just a political act, trying to operate within the confines of the Democrat Party with any effectiveness. But here she is over the weekend talking about the military-industrial complex. Again, the irony of the Democrats voting against the VA, the irony of the Democrats voting every time to fund the war in Ukraine, the irony of the Democrats voting against the oversight of the weapons and monies going to Ukraine. Yes, the irony of all that. But I think this is probably, if there is any real AOC, if there is any true AOC, you may have gotten a taste of it. You might even agree a lot with what she says here in clip 15.
So let me start off this whole UAP discussion by just stating the obvious, which is that people don't trust the government. And why would you? I mean, a lot of our budget is like 5 defense contractors in a trench coat asking for $1 trillion. So,
and which you vote for every time.
When you don't have universal health care, but you spend $800 billion a year, that can't pass an audit.
Now pause it, because I've talked about this a lot on the show. And believe me, I'm not trying to give any good political advice to the American left. But see what she just said? That's everything right there. That is everything right there. Because I don't want to hear a damn thing from any of these communists about we need free this, we need free that. When they vote to send hundreds of billions of dollars overseas annually. The war in Ukraine has been going on for some 560 days. The U.S. government has sent over $200 billion to that effort. That's more than $100 billion annually. So no. You're not going to tell me that I have to pay more in taxes so that some bum can get a free ride. You're not going to tell me I have to spend more in taxes so that you can give money to a homeless person or somebody of a skin color you want to give free money to and everything else. No. Now, I'm still not for it. But see, that's the message that the left should be having. If we're going to go for health care for all, free education for all, and all this other freedom stuff that they want, which is just freebies, but nothing is free, it's just stealing from you and giving it to their potential voters, then the first thing you have to stop is this military spending. Now, again, I'm not for free stuff, but that's an argument that logically I'll hear out. Yeah, how about instead of $200 billion for the war in Ukraine, we spend $200 billion in the United States to help our people? So it's a message that's long overdue. And it's such a common sense, organic thing. I'm surprised it took AOC this long to commit to it. But again, she has to operate within the confines of the Democrat Party. But that's the message they should be going with. But the irony, of course, is that she voted for the war in Ukraine every single time, even though she knows the military-industrial complex is a complete theft job. But she goes on getting into the whole alien aspect.
I am seeing most often is, why now? Why this? Why is this happening right now? And I think there's a lot of different factors. But I can't ignore the first part, which is that there are political reasons. Republicans right now have the majority, and this is not about mudslinging, but Republicans right now have a majority, and that is much deeper than just there are more Republican votes than there are Democratic votes. Whoever has the majority party controls who's in charge of the hearings. They control what goes to the floor, what gets voted on. The speaker is the majority party, etc. And the story of the Republicans over the last 6 months has been that there's been a lot of infighting, and they haven't been able to accomplish much. In fact, we just went home early because they couldn't finish the agricultural bill, which creates a window of opportunity, actually. And all of that intra-party fighting kind of slows down the legislative process even more, because if the party in control really can't agree on things like agriculture and healthcare and things like that, then the pace of what you normally have hearings on kind of grinds to a halt. You can't really have as many hearings on the normal stuff.
I don't know how much longer I can take her voice.
We're getting increasingly
Starting to get a headache.
Hearings about weird stuff, especially on the Oversight Committee. So this committee hearing was on the National Security Subcommittee, and that created a window of opportunity to push through a UAP hearing. Additionally, there's been some bipartisan efforts around greater disclosure that are starting to kick in. Additionally, another reason why this is happening right now is that this is a story of organizing. I don't know what to tell you. People may want to be cynical about that, but truly, there are a lot of people in this country who are very interested in this topic. And there has been increasing pressure and organizing that transcends party lines. And that has resulted in the inclusion of several UAP disclosure requirements that Congress included in past defense authorizations. And so there have actually been task forces that were mandated by Congress in recent years, and there's more legislation this year. And there have also been mandated disclosure that has really been the first of its kind in a long time, which is why that mandated public and congressional reporting results in more... Sorry, my phone was dying, so I had to move. Anyways,
your brain's
so
dying.
The other question I'm getting asked a lot is, what do you think? And if I just put on my investigator hat, which is the hat that we all put on the Oversight Committee, it is part of our Article
she's a modern-day Sherlock Holmes
under the Constitution. Witness testimony is important. You cannot rely on witness testimony alone, but it is very often a helpful starting point.
See how she has to have the qualifier there because of all the Hunter Biden witnesses?
It is completely different when a person decides to say something to the media or say something in public.
I got to cut through it. I can't deal with her anymore. But she gets to the bottom of it, and she's like, well, maybe this is something that they just want more military funding. And so now we have to have more military funding because we have a threat of aliens. So again, through all the riffraff and confusion that she probably inflicts on herself there, I do think she has a point that most of us can agree with, which is the military-industrial complex is out of control. It spends way too much money, and it comes up with excuses to spend more money, and a lot of that money finds its way back into the hands of the very politicians that vote for it. Now, she's not allowed to take that to the Capitol. That's why she has to do it on a Instagram feed or whatever that was, because that's not proper party rhetoric from the Democrat Party, because they enrich themselves fabulously with it. But I'll tell you what, if the communists on the American left started thinking more logically in their approach to all the free crap that they want to give you that's not free, and they said, well, we're not going to vote for any more foreign aid. We're not going to vote for more military aid to Ukraine. We're not going to vote for all the illegal immigrants to come in here. They also get hundreds of billions of dollars. Instead, we're going to spend that money on the things that we claim we want, like free healthcare, free education. Now, again, I'm not saying I support these government programs for free healthcare or free education or any of that stuff, but I would at least listen to the American left if that was their approach and that was their logic, because it would also give us something that we like, which is cutting off the military-industrial complex, stopping all the money laundering that gets done in the name of wars, and all the insider trading that goes on in D.C. with the weapons manufacturing companies. So let's see if that message ever comes out of AOC's mouth again, or if Nancy Pelosi gives her a call and says, hey, shut up, bitch. You know, we've really built something incredible, and I mean we, all of us together, myself, the crew, and you in the audience at band.video, where we have so many great reporters and commentators, some members of our team, some just independent investigative journalists. Here's the latest report, though, at band.video from one Greg Reese.
In 1975, New York City was over $11 billion in debt, and the banks were no longer there to bail them out. Instead, the bankers made them sweat, never showed up to the meeting, and then created a committee that they controlled so that the banks could manage the city directly. This has been brilliantly documented in the Adam Curtis film, Hypernormalization.
The announcement on behalf of the controller is that the offer, which we had expected to receive and announce at 2 o'clock this afternoon, is now expected at 4 o'clock.
Paul, does this mean that so far nobody wants those bonds?
We will be making a further announcement at 4 o'clock, and anything further that I could say now I think would not advance the interests of the sale, which is now in progress.
Does this mean that you have not been able to sell them so far today?
We will have a further announcement at 4 o'clock.
What happened that day in New York marked a radical shift in power. The banks insisted that in order to protect their loans, they should be allowed to take control of the city. The city appealed to the president, but he refused to help. So a new committee was set up to manage the city's finances. Out of 9 members, 8 of them were bankers. It was the start of an extraordinary experiment where the financial institutions took power away from the politicians and started to run society themselves.
That was nearly 50 years ago, and so you can be sure that the banks manage everything now. Politicians are merely their puppets, which was recently made blatantly obvious with the public display of Dianne Feinstein and her handlers.
Say aye. Pardon me? Aye. Yeah.
To say.
I would like to support a yes vote on this. It provides $823 billion. That's an increase of $26 billion for the Department of Defense. And it funds priorities submitted.
Yeah, just say aye.
Okay, just aye.
Thank you.
Politicians are only there to keep the people divided and distracted, and they have so far been hugely successful at that. While a cashless society is slowly being built around us, everyone is hyper-emotional about something else and focused on fighting each other, which is most certainly exactly what the banks were shooting for. Because once they get us off of cash and completely onto a digital system, then the banks will have absolute control over each and every one of us.
A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control.
It's not just about digital forms of physical currency. You can have programmability, units of central bank currency with expiry dates, where the government decides that units of central bank money can be used to purchase some things, but not other things that it deems less desirable, like, say, ammunition.
Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Now, Ice Cube has done a lot of things recently going against the establishment. Good for him, including posting this meme. It's a picture of the all-seeing eye that we see so not so subtly on the U.S. dollar with a bunch of middle fingers pointed straight up in its direction. We gonna blacken that effing eye up right there. Well, I got more on how we're getting screwed over by monetary policy and the central banks on an issue I've been talking about for a while now, starting to catch steam, and that's the rigging of the house market. The rigging of the house market. We'll talk about that coming up. Telling you right now, the next big issue to arise in politics is going to be the housing market, and I also predict taxes to follow. Because the American people are going to realize real soon how the housing market has been rigged against them and how this idea that somehow raising taxes benefits the poor when it's the exact opposite is also going to be realized. And, you know, we've got an event coming up in September that I hope everybody in the audience in Texas will attend, September 23rd, in front of the governor's mansion, asking him to cut property taxes as he's kind of flirted with the idea of. And I've asked some other influencers in Texas to be a part of it, and you know, there's not much interest there, and that's fine. And then somebody says, you know, why do you do this? People aren't going to be interested. Why do you do it? Well, you know, you may recall, you may have even been there, some of the crew was there, 5 years ago now, maybe 6 years ago now, we had a anti-abortion rally at a Planned Parenthood here. And I gave a little bit of a speech afterwards because I had some similar takeaways, like, why are you wasting your time? They're never going to cancel abortion. Why are you wasting your time? You can't get everybody behind this message. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm not saying that this rally here today is going to end abortion. And I'm not saying that we're going to be able to end abortion in the flip of a switch. But if you go back and maybe we can find that speech, you'll realize that speech that day was unintentionally prophetic. I was just defending why I have these anti-abortion rallies, why I have these at Planned Parenthood, because it's about moving the ball down the field, and it's about saying, hey, you know, we don't have to be purist and get everything we want overnight, but we can slowly, surely chip away and then start to have the victories. And now abortion is illegal in many states. I think it's going to be the same story with this property tax deal. Especially now, we have all the financial news out there. About 40%, the number is 40% of Americans have less than $1,000 in savings, and 50% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, including many Americans that are making six figures. And once you realize how much you're paying in taxes, I mean, folks, you probably are paying 25% of the money you make, if not more, just in taxes. Now, most people don't sit down and crunch those numbers when it comes to sales tax or income tax or FICA or Medicare or property tax and all that stuff. But boy, oh boy, if you actually sat there and crunched it down, you'd realize you're paying about 25% in taxes to the U.S. government. That should make you sick. And perhaps the most egregious of these is the property tax. So now, not only, think about it like this. Because there's an argument where they say, well, what is home ownership really? How many people actually own their homes outright versus the banks own their homes and they have a mortgage? So, but you're paying property tax on an overvalued house that you don't even fully own, that you couldn't afford to begin with, but now you're paying the exorbitant property tax on that, keeping you further away from ever owning a home outright. Paying taxes on something you already own? A new study has come out from the Kobesi letter. Sources include the census, the HUD. The median sales price of a home in the United States is now 560% of the median household income. In 2008, it was 360% of the median household income. This is the least affordable housing market in history. But see, there's a catch. And I go and I look at the responses and they say, well, wait a second. Home ownership is actually up. 67%. But again, what is really up? Is it home ownership or is it banks making money off of the overinflated value of your house and the government making money off of the overinflated value of your house? That's what's really going on. Home ownership is not actually up. Home ownership is down as far as what percentage of the people in the United States actually own their home outright and don't have a mortgage, and the bank doesn't own their house, essentially. You couldn't buy your house if it wasn't for the bank. That percentage is way down, might even be at an all-time low. So that's real home ownership. But think about it. This is the trick. This is the trap. The banks will let you buy a house with a very small down payment, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. But now what? Oh, okay, so you feel like you're getting into the asset column. You feel like you finally got access to part of the American dream, owning a house. Except there's a catch. One, you don't own the house, the bank does. Two, you're paying now exorbitant interest rates to the bank, and the $400,000 house you bought will end up costing you $1 million. Three, you're getting your property overvalued in all of this, that being your house, because the banks overvalue the house, and now you're paying property taxes on that overvalued house. So no, this isn't about home ownership being up in the United States. Home ownership is down, and taxes are up, and interest rates are up. So who always wins in that battle? The government and the big banks. This realization is long overdue, and I'm working on getting guests lined up to have a real conversation about how to correct this housing market, what needs to be done for future Americans so that the central banks don't own all the houses and you're not stuck in perpetual mortgage payments, interest payments, property tax payments that never allow you to get out of the lower class or the middle class, because that's what it's really about. Because now, quite frankly, aside from hoping you get equity out of it or just the feeling of owning your own house, most people would break it down financially and realize that actually home ownership is a bad financial decision in today's current market. Now, another thing we're witnessing here, and this will be the generation that realizes this, high school boys are trending conservative. This story with the statistics out of the Hill. Wild stuff happening here. And I like to think that we're a part of that right here at InfoWars. And I know that I have a very, an audience that skews younger. We have a very diverse audience, obviously, here at InfoWars. But I know that we have an audience here, a lot of college students, high school students that like to tune in here. That means a lot to me. I was a bit of a talk radio head when I was in high school, 3 o'clock. I shouldn't even act like I waited till the bell rung. I'd have headphones in my ear in the middle of class and hoping the teacher wouldn't see it. I'd put them behind my ear, behind my back, hoping they wouldn't notice I'm listening to talk radio during the lecture. Political identities of 12th grade boys are leaning heavily conservative, as you can see in this graph here. In fact, let me do a compare and contrast. We can dot cam this. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. So here's where your high school boys are on the list, skewing heavily conservative. Heavily conservative right here. Versus the high school girls skewing highly liberal. Now, I don't necessarily want to get into why boys are going conservative versus girls are going liberal, but I do think this trend of young men and boys leaning conservative is going to stick. I think that one is going to stick. And I think that's going to be the generation of righteously indignant young Americans that see how the whole system has been screwed and skewed against them so that they can never accomplish the American dream of owning property and building a business of their own. Now, as far as the cultural issues you're going to have when all the men are conservative and all the women are liberal, that's a whole nother debate, perhaps for another day. But I'm telling you, the realization that we have been screwed out of this housing market is long overdue, folks. All right, let's get into this stack of international geopolitical news that we have here. I guess we could start with the wide open southern border, because there is some pretty stunning footage out of New York City, some of which I already sent the crew. There's more out there, though, actually from today. In fact, it was Timcast, guys. The Timcast Twitter account has this video, but I've got some from last night. Guys, just give me the B-roll of clip 21, and then if you can find the new footage from today, that'd be great, too. But this is the illegal immigrants in New York City outside of the hotels that have been designated for the illegal immigrants, and they kick out wedding parties, they kick out people that are traveling for work or pleasure or whatever, and they give all these rooms to the illegal immigrants. The hotel owners don't care because it's guaranteed rooms filled and money for them. It's all a giant boondoggle. Here's some of the numbers, by the way. New York City hires COVID company. Oh, it's about COVID? No, it's about illegal immigrants. New York City hires COVID company in $432 million no-bid contract to ship illegal aliens out of the city. Oh, but it's a sanctuary city voted by Democrats for the illegal immigrants, and now they're paying $500 million to ship them out. Wow. But that's not helping the issue of all of them being out on the streets when the buses pull up and they have nowhere for them to stay. So now they're spending. So really, the solution here is obvious. Stop them from coming across the border. But see, $432 million no-bid contract, there's money involved, folks. Big money, by the way. Billions. Billions and billions of dollars in the illegal immigration market. From the coyotes to the cartels to U.S. citizens. Making money hand over fist. Not helping the American people, helping destroy the American people. In other geopolitical news, China is funding Americans' public schools. Communist nation has channeled $17 million to more than 143 K-12 districts, sparking GOP probe. The Republicans are trying to get into the bottom of the report from Parents Defending Education, which states that the close coordination between the Chinese Communist Party and the U.S. schools to establish the Confucius classrooms has historically included 143 school districts in 34 states and Washington, D.C. It was also right here at the University of Texas, Austin, the Confucius Institute. But what happened? See, oh, look at this. We've got millions of dollars. Oh, the Chinese communists here are offering us millions of dollars to influence our curriculum. I'm sorry, did you say millions of dollars? Yes. To influence. I don't care. $1 million. Take the deal. That's how that goes. President Trump vows to sign executive order to cut funding for any schools pushing critical race theory, which is the Chinese communist-run ones, and transgender insanity, again, the Chinese communist-run ones. And they think, oh, it's all LGBTQ. No, you're just falling for Chinese communist propaganda to make you weak, actually. And that's why they're making it illegal in China and then forcing it on you here. And they say this will stop you from committing suicide. Remember that big lie? Transsexual request euthanasia, assisted suicide in Canada over pain from sex change surgery. The wound, the gash they put, the permanent wound hole gash they put in this individual is so painful now that they're going to kill themselves. But they say, oh, it'll stop you from killing yourself, and then it's the highest suicide rate. Yeah, that's the scene in New York today. That's the scene in New York today with the illegal immigrants, most from North Africa coming here. So I guess the Spanish and the Italians and the Greeks and everybody, the Greeks have had enough of the North African invasion, so now it's happening in New York City. And then in South Africa, you have South Africa's Black Party leader singing a song in front of tens of thousands of people, kill the whites, kill the whites, kill the whites. And then, unfortunately, that happened. Just hours afterwards, a white South African farmer, Theo Frederick Becker, was murdered and his wife injured by, well, I guess there's no direct correlation, right? To all the white farmers getting murdered right after this rally takes place. Now, quite frankly, I don't even want to get involved in the racial aspects of South African politics. But obviously, I mean, you want to talk about apartheid, you want to talk about racism, there it is. And it was so bad that even the UN now, after this farmer's murder, has said, we got to step in and stop this racism. So, that's how bad that is. Then in Brazil, socialist president, probably stole the election just like Biden, imposes gun control on all citizens, reverses Bolsonaro's policies that reduced crime. He hates you. Da Silva, the president, hates you. Wow, that's painful. That's painful. Just like it pains you what Joe Biden has done to this country, it pains the Brazilians what Lula da Silva has done there. A criminal president who somehow got reelected. Unbelievable. Son of Colombian President Petro arrested over money laundering accusation. The son of Colombia's president has been arrested as part of an investigation into money laundering and illicit enrichment. The Colombian Attorney General's office said in a statement, Nicolas Petro, a congressman in Atlántico province, son of the president, was placed under investigation by the Attorney General's office in early March over accusations he had taken money from drug traffickers in exchange for including them in his father's efforts to broker peace talks with criminal and organizations in the Caribbean region. Oh, a president's son? A president's son being investigated for money laundering? Sounds like what's going on in our country. How convenient. How convenient that that's all going on. Yeah, long overdue. Long overdue. All right, when we come back, I'm going to get into the issue, the climate change lies that they continue to tell you. Ladies and gentlemen, though, it is the last day of July. Hard to believe we're about to flip the calendar to August, but that is approaching. And so Patriot Pride Month sales at InfoWarsStore.com are about to expire. These are some of our biggest sales, if not the biggest sales we've had all year. Basically, Christmas comes earlier, Christmas in July, but it's the Patriot Pride Month sale. So top-rated, top-selling products, Brain Force Plus, Brain Force Ultra, 50% off. Survival Shield X3, 50% off. Don't forget about the big deals on emergency supplies. Air filters, water filters, 10% off. All emergency food supplies, 10% off, whether it's the year supply, 6-month supply, everything else in between, 10% off that. And the brand new CBD product, we already have some of the most high-quality CBD products at InfoWarsStore.com. We've just launched another Rebel Zen CBD, 33% off, introductory rate right now, full spectrum, 3,000 milligram Rebel Zen CBD, InfoWarsStore.com. Well, the truth behind the climate change narrative and agenda is starting to reveal itself. It's global government tyranny, where you are no longer a sovereign citizen. You no longer have self-government. You're a cancer. You're a parasite causing climate change. And of course, it's all a lie. It feeds into the lie of human evolution, at least as they tell us it. It's been proven a lie. And also with great researchers, investigators like Graham Hancock and other scientific revelations like the Vostok ice core samples, the lies we're told about man-made climate change have been completely debunked. Completely debunked. But of course, it's not about stopping man-made climate change. It's about stopping man and convincing you that you need to be a slave, tricking you, saying, oh, it's for the greater good. No, it's to turn you into a slave. Now, I'm going to connect all the dots on this. But perhaps first we should just show you what a liar John Kerry is. Here's John Kerry telling you the truth that you're going to starve to death. So how do you stop man-made climate change? Starve man to death. That's the equation. John Kerry admits all of it here. But then there's another aspect of this I want to expose even greater. So here's John Kerry telling you he's going to have to starve you to death to stop man-made climate change. But then he tells you the biggest whopper of them all, that all the prophetic wisdom of the man-made climate change has come true. So we're gonna reveal all of it. But here's John Kerry telling you he's going to starve you to stop man-made climate change.
Agriculture contributes about 33% of all the emissions of the world. Depending a little bit on how you count it, but it's anywhere from 26 to 33. And we can't get to net zero. We don't get this job done unless agriculture is front and center as part of the solution. But with a growing population on the planet, we just crossed the threshold of 8 billion fellow citizens around the world. We just crossed that in this last year. Emissions from the food system alone are projected to cause another 0.5 degree of warming by mid-century on the current course that we are today. A 2-degree future could result in an additional 600 million people not getting enough to eat. And
as he wants to starve you out.
You just can't continue to both warm the planet while also expecting to feed it. Doesn't work.
So we're going to starve you to death.
So we have to reduce emissions from the food system to keep the 1.5 degrees alive. Why do we have to keep 1.5 degrees alive? Because scientists, as a basis of physics and mathematics, not ideology and politics or party labels or anything else, as a matter of physics and mathematics and some biology and chemistry have told us these are the consequences. And we already see it happening. And almost everything they've predicted for 30 plus years now is coming true. But the problem is it's coming true faster and bigger than was in fact predicted.
Oh, so he just told you the whole thing. It is political, and he's going to starve you to death until you get starved to death. But I actually want to go further here, guys, and I know the crew will be able to find this. Let's also find the Nimoy clip where they're talking about global freezing. You guys remember that one from the 70s? Let's also pull that one in, too, just to completely debunk these liars that want to turn you into a slave. But, okay, you just heard John Kerry. He said, oh, everybody that's predicting this for 30 years has been proven completely accurate. Well, let's just go to John Kerry himself. Let's just go to John Kerry himself and Al Gore 10 years ago, just 10 years ago. Here's what John Kerry and Al Gore said in clip 19.
There is a 75% chance that the entire North Polar ice cap during some of the summer months could be completely ice-free within the next 5 to 7 years.
You have sea ice, which is melting at a rate that the Arctic Ocean now increasingly is exposed. In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic summer.
I apologize. I am so sorry. I said that was from 10 years ago. That was from 15 years ago. So there's John Kerry this weekend saying that all the scientists, all their predictions for 30 years have been right. But there's John Kerry and Al Gore with their predictions 15 years ago completely wrong. Al Gore did a whole documentary called An Inconvenient Truth. The entire thing now, 20 years later, is completely wrong. Everything John Kerry said 15 years ago, completely disproven. And do we have the Nimoy Ice Age clip ready too, guys? That's okay. So we'll come back to that. We're going to put these lies to rest. Now, what did I tell you right here on this show in the spring? I said this summer, you're going to see high gas prices. Now, I was a little late. It took a little while, but now we're here. Gas prices hit 8-month high as oil prices soar, and there's no relief in sight. Folks, this situation could even get worse with Israel and Iran, with Russia, Ukraine, with Saudi Arabia, with BRICS. This situation could get worse. I don't think it goes down from here. You already got $6 a gallon gasoline. You might get it up to $7, and that's Bidenomics. And he tells you that gas prices are lower than they've ever been. Meanwhile, Ted Lieu, Democrat liar, says, are you suffering from excessive heat? Blame a climate denier. I mean, imagine. It's not the sun. Climate deniers were wrong. Who's denying the climate? Scientists were right. Well, we're playing you the people that claim they were right, and they were wrong too. You have the power to vote out elected officials. Oh, and there it is. It's all about political power, ladies and gentlemen. Who's denying the climate? Nobody. Actually, if anything, it's the Democrats. And so now they want to take away all your necessities and the things that make your life convenient and livable. Incandescent light bulb ban starts August 1st. That's tomorrow. Gas stove ban coming next. Yeah, it'll be everything. Cars. They're doing this thing now where, and the car dealerships now, if you go to buy a new car, the car dealerships are kind of picking up on this sales tactic, and they're saying, hey, tell everybody that this car is going to be illegal soon because it's gas powered. They're actually doing that, by the way. So if you go buy a new car, you might hear somebody at the dealership saying, yeah, you're going to need to buy this car. It's going to be illegal next month. Tony Blinken, that freak, says nuclear war is not as bad as climate change. Wow. Okay, so nuclear war could wipe us all off the face of the earth tomorrow, and climate change is something you've been talking about for 50 years and still hasn't happened. New York City to begin cutting back on ketchup packets and napkins and takeout orders. You know what? I'm okay with practicality. People put ketchup. If I go to a restaurant and they put ketchup in the bag, I don't use it, so that's a waste. So I'm okay with practicality. Maybe if you should ask for napkins and ketchup, that's okay. But when you force the government to do this stuff, the government forces people to do this stuff, that's when I have the problem. But okay, they said all the scientific predictions were right. You heard John Kerry. All the scientific predictions were right. What about this one where they said we'd be in an ice age right now?
8 times in the past million years, it has advanced and retreated with clockwork regularity. If we are unprepared for the next advance, the result could be hunger and death on a scale unprecedented in all of history. What scientists are telling us now is that the threat of an ice age is not as remote as they once thought. During the lifetime of our grandchildren, Arctic cold and perpetual snow could turn most of the inhabitable portions of our planet into a polar desert.
In 1977, the worst winter in a century struck.
All right, so there you go. It was propaganda then. It's propaganda now. The message hasn't changed, except it's gone from cold to hot. That's all that's changed. It's gone from cold to hot. So then it was you're going to freeze to death because of climate change. Now it's you're going to die from heat because of climate change. And John Kerry says all the predictions that were made were right. Wrong about acid rain, wrong about ice ages. And you yourself, John Kerry, we played the clip earlier. You were wrong about global warming, just like Al Gore. He says, see, we were all right. And then literally you can play all their predictions, and every single one was wrong. Final segment here of the InfoWars War Room, brought to you by InfoWarsStore.com. The Patriot Pride Month sales coming to an end. You know, we're interested in all things awesome. We're interested in all things awesome. Guys, give me the, pump the audio for this too. F-22 Raptor flyby. Let's get the full audio here. Yeah, that's awesome. We're interested in all things awesome here. That is just too cool. Could you imagine being right under that? I got to attend some air shows in St. Louis and then Chesterfield, Missouri. They had some pretty cool air shows. We got to see some stuff like that. Man, that is awesome. That when you see a flyby F-22, I mean, it just explodes. Just explodes through the atmosphere. You know, for the great movie Top Gun Maverick, I think my favorite scene was at the beginning when they have to test drive that new aircraft, and he takes it out right as they're pulling up and they're about to cancel the whole program. And so he takes it out and does a flyover right as they're about to cancel the whole program, and then breaks Mach 9 or whatever it was. I thought that was the coolest part. All right. We got some odds and ends here to address before we sign off. Reminder, it is Monday, and so I go live on Rumble every Monday night, rumble.com/Owen. We have some real fun there, take a lot of phone calls. If there's news I don't get to during the show here, I usually cover it afterwards. I have a feeling there might be some breaking news before I go live tonight anyway. But tune in, rumble.com/Owen, and I'll probably take some calls there. Let's just pick up the rest of the odds and ends that we have here. Oh, yes. Yeah. It's not safe in Democrat-run cities these days. Not safe at all. New York City cabbie savagely beaten on street, fumes at horrible system, and Eric Adams. Tell him die with the shame. A struggling immigrant cabbie and married dad of 2 was savagely beaten by a group of brutes in Midtown, told the Post on Friday. He's appalled that the 2 suspects were let go with a slap on the wrist. I wonder why. Well, because we don't need minorities filling up the prisons, so it's more important to put them back on the streets and avoid being called a racist. And they will beat and pummel and rob again. Let's just hope someone doesn't die that time. This is what happens in Democrat-run cities. It's a damn shame, but what do you expect from a death cult? Trust me, folks. Trust me. You don't want to be conceived in the womb of a Democrat. You don't want to be conceived in the womb of a liberal. Chances are you ain't making it out. Chances are they're going to murder you before you even get out of that womb. I wonder, though, because Joe Biden finally recognized his 7th grandchild in an interview. That's Hunter Biden, London Roberts' child that Hunter tried to deny, and then in court, when he was forced to make child care payments, he said, fine, but you can never give that child the Biden name. He's real proud of his own offspring. But no, I wonder how many grandchildren Joe Biden actually has. I doubt Hunter Biden even knows. How many Bidens do you think have been aborted? How many of Hunter Biden's children do you think didn't make it out the womb? I'm telling you, I mean, thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. I was not conceived in the womb of a liberal. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. I was not conceived in the womb of a Democrat, because I probably wouldn't be here. Yo, it's a death cult, all right. It's a death cult, all right. You get conceived in the womb of a Democrat, you might not make it out that, you might not even see the light of day. They're going to snuff you out and murder you before you even take your first breath. Meanwhile, breaking forensic study into 2020 Detroit, Michigan election finds up to 34,000 illegal ballots. What was the margin of victory there, by the way? Like 33,000? I'm serious, guys. Pull up the margin of victory. It was like 33,000. Pull up the margin of victory if you can. 2020 Michigan. It was like 30,000. What a perfect number, isn't it? And additional warnings from Detroit clerks that thousands of absentee paper was different than normal ballots. Yeah. You remember the one famous lady's testimony who's been a poll watcher and tabulator for decades, and she said, I'd never seen anything like this. Ballots have a certain feel, a certain touch. It's kind of like money. You know what a dollar bill feels like. You probably know what a fake dollar bill feels like. Like they have fake money. It's not, I'm not talking about actual counterfeit. I'm talking about like Hollywood stunt money. And we've had some of this. We've used some of this before. If I gave you a Hollywood stunt dollar bill and you'd feel it, you'd know that's not a real dollar bill. Well, it's the same thing with these ballots. And so you had all of these tabulators who've been working elections for dozens of years, and they say, yeah, I could see some of these ballots. I could just touch them, and I knew they were not real. All right, what was the final margin there? It was under 30,000, I suspected. Or is it 200,000 actually? I can't. So, all right, well, 34. So that's not enough. It was the 330,000 ballots that came in at 3 a.m. in the morning for Biden that gave him that victory. But see, then you had the situation in Arizona. Maricopa County blames printers for the election chaos. You may recall they had all the problems in Maricopa County, and even though it was Kerry Lake that was extremely popular, and it's a red state. If you walk around, it's a red state, but then somehow Democrats keep winning. And they said, oh, well, the reason why the election day was so chaotic was because of the printers. But now the printing manufacturers are saying, hey, hold on, that's not our equipment that we're the problem. Why don't you just shut up, American? Why don't you just shut up about your elections? Just let them get stolen from you. Who cares? That's what the Democrats would like you to say. Not one 8th grade student at the LeBron James Akron school has passed a state math test in 3 years. Wow. School is really going well. The I Promise school there, isn't it? You know, you can obviously take a cheap shot here at LeBron and this school that you could say is failing its students, but really that's right on par with pretty much every major city that's run by Democrats. I mean, you can go to Baltimore, you can go to St. Louis, you can go to Chicago, you can go to New York, New Jersey, same story. Same story. That your high school graduates are really not even at an 8th grade learning level. General Mike Flynn put out a video and a tweet premiering August 4th. Into the Light will be a powerful documentary and message for all of humanity. We're about to be led out of the darkness. And guys, you can go ahead and give the audio to this. It's just some sounds, but this is an interesting deep tease from General Flynn. I wonder what this documentary is going to be about. Into the Light. We are about to be led out of the darkness. And of course, we've already seen what Sound of Freedom has done to the mind of the left, the Democrat, the liberal. They apparently like child sex trafficking. So you can only imagine how much they're going to freak out over whatever this documentary is going to expose. Maybe it's something like this. Young Thug. I guess this is a popular rapper. Young Thug's lawyers want goat sacrifice excluded from evidence. Young Thug's attorney wants video of arrest during religious ceremony involving goats not to be shown. What does that sound like to you? A little bit of Satanism? Sounds like a little bit of Satanism. And they don't want that to come out in court, and they're calling it a religious ceremony. That's their excuse, a goat sacrifice. Huh. Do you think she learned that one from Marina Abramovich or maybe Jay-Z? I wonder. And then the final one for today. The Washington Redskins, now Commanders owner, has finally stepped aside to new ownership. And now there's a petition that wants to change the Commanders' name back to the Redskins. Now, that's something I can get behind. Let's get back to tradition. Get the Redskins back in the NFL. Screw the liberals. All right, I'll see you on Rumble in 2 hours.
I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets. Get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year is going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple-digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm going to tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone, also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you going to do? What's the choice that you're going to make?